Everyone has access to money, to technology, to people, but it's creativity that will set you apart.
On this episode of the RCN Podcast, the chairman of Hexagon AB and Greenbridge Partners, Ola Rollen.
Typically where I've made mistakes is when I waited too long to take a decision. You know that it's the right thing to do. The AI that everyone talks about is going to help us.
It all has to start from imagining.
Creating these digital twins.
You have to trust the decision you believe to make.
And that goes from anything like tiny micro components up to buildings, cities, countries.
What is it today that you are focused on?
Why do you need to measure everything?
Why waste your time and your money and
Want to
fuel?
learn how to swim, jump into the water.
Many people are hesitant of some of the technologies we're talking about.
The most important factor that will set you apart from competition.
Welcome to another episode of the Reality Capture Network podcast. Today, I am excited to welcome Ola Rollen with us. Thank you for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited. I know we've been talking for a while since I got to meet you at Hexagon Live just a couple years ago, and really encouraged by what you guys are doing as a company and inspired by your presentation that you gave. And I love digging in with individuals who, one, have had an inspirational journey of their own, but two, on our podcast, we really are focusing on new technologies and innovation and looking at where they can improve different, career paths and different industries. But before we talk about technologies, we also love learning about the journeys of, successful people and where they got started. And so I know it's probably a long story, but even if you want to just share the bullet points, I'd love to learn, what did you start out in your career doing that then led to your role at Hexagon?
Well, long ago, I wanted to become a musician. And I failed at that miserably. And I studied finance in Stockholm. And at that time, you should join one of the investment banks. And I went for an interview, and I really didn't like what they were all about. So I did the polar opposite. I joined a pulp and paper company in Sweden. And then I worked in the steel industry for 10 years. And then I met my then boss, Mr. Melker Schörling, who had just bought a controlling stake in a small failing company called Hexagon. And he said, I don't think you can make it much worse. So what do you say? Do you want to take a stab at it and see if you can do something with this company? And I said, what do you want me to do? Well, I want it to be profitable. I want it to be leading and international.
Easy.
So that was, it's super easy. But we were quite lucky. So I had actually encountered a company called Brown & Sharp Manufacturing Company in Rhode Island a couple of years before that. And I start looking them up, and they were in Chapter 11. So we started negotiating with their bank, and we bought out the business out of the at the time listed Brown & Sharp Manufacturing Company. And that was the start for Hexagon. And then we started focusing on, call it measurement technologies. And eventually we bought a geomatics company called Leica Geosystems in Switzerland. In 2010, if we fast forward, we bought Intergraph because we could see. At that time, we didn't know what digital twins was, but we knew that if you can capture reality and create a digital representation of reality, that should be awesome. So we acquired Intergraph. We started integrating Intergraph software platforms with the sensors that Brown & Sharp and Geosystems did. And then we just continued to grow. And at the peak before the current downturn on the stock market, we were worth $40 billion.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that there are many stories along that journey. Let's go even a little back to when you were being offered to step into that role as CEO, and it was a very different business at that point. And as you said, many challenges and looking to turn it around. Personally, for you, what was your mindset kind of going into that, knowing where it was, and how did you feel about your potential of being able to turn it around? What was your thoughts there?
The true story is that I had just accepted a role as president for one of the largest divisions within a very successful engineering company in Sweden called Sandvik. So my first reaction was, hell no. Why would I take a failing job at Hexagon?
Yeah.
But then my family didn't like it. We had to relocate to a small town north of Stockholm, and for family reasons, we didn't like it there. And I said, okay, we want to move back to Stockholm, so this is my opportunity. And then I said yes. So it's always, circumstances and I guess fate.
Yeah, sure. So during your time, you guys had many acquisitions. You obviously went from what was a failing company to a very thriving global leader. What were some of the challenges that you faced in those earlier years, and how did you navigate them?
I think in the early years, it was very much we couldn't afford to buy well-functioning organizations. So the first thing we needed to do was to sow seed to create a very, very strong and attractive corporate culture. And it's not hard being Scandinavian. We are not that many people in Scandinavia, but we have huge companies like Volvo, Novo Nordisk from Denmark. You have, you probably have some 30, 40 companies that are much bigger than the area itself. So opposed to Japanese, German, and American companies, as a Swede, you need to trust your local environment. You can't hire your own breed, so to say, to ship out Swedes all over the world. You have to hire locals, and that has forced us to understand many cultures and become multicultural. And I think that is actually a benefit, because we adapt to local cultures much better than companies that originate out of bigger and stronger countries with a stronger culture. And what you learn very early on is to delegate. Since you don't take China, for example, what do I know about China? I don't speak Chinese. I can't read it. I can't understand the signs even when I walk in the street. So you have to find someone that you trust and give them the responsibility and the authority to make a successful business. And I think to trust people and give them authority, that is the secret sauce in any organization. Then if you start doing that in a structured way, you can actually grow that organization to become big, but still be entrepreneurial. And I think that was the challenge, but that was the early success that we established with Hexagon.
Yeah, I love that. It makes me think the term I like to use there a lot is like an intrapreneur. Creating a role for an individual that maybe doesn't go out and start their own business, but has the position and maybe flexibility internally where they are the person that can be self-starting, that are thinking ahead, that, I like using that term for that role. So you would say allowing someone to have that capacity and delegate to them is what would lead to successful growth.
Yeah, to evolve to your full potential, I would say, without too much bureaucracy and restrictions.
Yeah, That's great.
And this is where companies fail as well. I mean, culture is so underestimated. Culture is the most important thing in an organization.
I agree. When it comes to even culture, and another thing I wanted to ask was, leadership philosophy and maybe other principles that people should think about as they are in a leader role and they're trying to grow and learn. What are some other key things you think are important when it comes to leaders?
No, I think it's all about growing other persons. I mean, there is this analogy, you want to learn how to swim. Well, jump into the water and see how it goes. I think we need, you can take calculated risks within organizations. Let people try. If they make a mistake, so what? You can correct it in 99.9% of the time if you're fast enough. So that's why you need to have a very, very disciplined and fast decision making in parallel to delegation of responsibility, so that you can correct mistakes and so on.
Love that. Could you share a time when, I'm sure with all the transition and the turnaround and the growth, there have been times you've had to make difficult decisions. And sometimes that's, I think, a difficult time for leaders. There are a lot of leaders. Me personally, I struggle at times when I have to make a decision that is difficult, but seen as better for, the direction of a business. Could you share either a story or some thought there where, there was a difficult decision you were faced with you had to make?
But difficult decisions are always gray zone decisions. And what I mean by that, and it's always people. Decisions that are difficult always involve people, right? So you might have a superstar, a guy that is just performing, he or she is just amazing at what they do. Then you should just encourage and promote. And opposite, you might have someone that is very poor at what they're doing, and it's not that difficult to say you should probably not be doing this anymore, and maybe your calling in life is something different than this. But the worst scenarios are when someone is performing almost okay. You know that maybe the product line or whatever he or she is in charge of deserves better. But it's not that bad that you can just say, okay, let's call it a day, we'll end it here. Those decisions are always the most difficult ones, and this is typically where you as a manager will fail. You fail to take a decision in that situation.
Yes. Yeah. Decisions that affect people.
But do you see what I mean? When it's gray, it's not black and white.
Yes.
And unfortunately, most situations in life are gray.
Yeah.
They're not black or white.
Yeah, and maybe the skill of actually decision making comes over practice, like anything else. Maybe your intuition, you continue to grow, and the more that you face a decision like that, you have to weigh the black versus the white in what is the best decision to make.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about the technologies now. So, over the last several years, the terms have grown, and we've seen growth around different reality capture technologies and digital twins, and we hear the term metaverse. What do you envision the future of these technologies look like?
I think that we've suddenly acquired the capability to make a perfect representation of the real world. And that goes from anything like a tiny, tiny micro component in a semiconductor process up to buildings, cities, countries even. And we can now start dabbling at deploying this. And I think we're at crossroads because AI that everyone talks about is going to help us an awful lot, creating these digital twins and make them productive. So for example, we can do tests in the digital world that would hurt or destroy value in the real world. We can simulate autonomous driving. We can simulate robotics. We can do all sorts of simulations in the digital world that we can't do in the real world. That's a huge opportunity for all of us.
Yes.
So I'm super excited about that.
Do you envision in the future, that every asset on Earth has a digital replica and this data is being used in scenarios like that? Or do you believe that there will still be areas that maybe don't get into adoption of these technologies?
No, I think more or less all assets will have digital twins. I think we will have digital twins. You will have a digital twin where doctors can store their medical records about you, and we can see the gradual deterioration and see what to fix next. And maybe in a couple of years we can anticipate where the body will fail next. Maybe sort of, I don't know, do preventive maintenance on our bodies.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, it's very interesting to think ahead, and I think it was maybe Abraham Lincoln, or maybe the quote attributed to a couple people is, the best way to predict the future is to create it.
Yeah.
I love, we often get in these conversations, we think about these things, we imagine them, and realistically, nothing that is created was not once in that stage of just being a thought. That's the part that I love about inspiration. When we talk about innovation in whole, it all has to start from imagining. What is your thought on the importance of creativity and innovation for businesses today?
No, it's the most important factor that will set you apart from competition. Everyone has access to money, to technology, to people, but it's creativity that will set you apart against your competition and make you win or lose. So creativity and speed is really the two things that I talk an awful lot about speed, but I thoroughly believe that decisions don't get better if you mull them over year in and year out. If you had that idea, just try it. So
Yeah.
I think that combination of willingness to stick your neck out in combination with creativity, that is what moves the world forward.
Yeah, absolutely. What kind of things, maybe for you personally, what kind of things have you done over your career, maybe to stay inspired, to brainstorm or think about new ideas? What kind of things do you personally do?
I think you always need to challenge yourself. So you need to learn a new language, or you need to try a new thing that you haven't tried. And it doesn't really matter that you age and get older. You should challenge yourself. That's probably the biggest lesson learned in life, that unless you do that and you grow into your comfort zone, you do the same thing year in, year out, well, you're going to stagnate. It's challenges that makes us grow.
That's awesome. In fact, I'd love to, while we're on that thought around kind of things that you've personally done or your thought there, a lot of people think that maybe routines or habits are also very important as we're trying to work on personal development and our growth. What are some things that you've done, or what do you think about that? Do you have certain morning routines, or, you wake up a certain time, or you read, or what are some personal development things that you have done that you would encourage others?
No, I think it's nothing special. It's just curiosity. Read books, study new subjects. As I said, learn a language. Duolingo is amazing. The app, I do that every day. And Be curious. I think when you lose your curiosity, that's when you lose your inspiration. And I think that's what I fear the most, that you wake up one day and you're not curious anymore, and then it's over.
Yeah. It's amazing to see, you have been in this position in leading a massive company for many, many, many years. And it almost feels like, when you're in that role, there's that fear of becoming stagnant, but it feels like you guys have done the opposite of always transitioning and thinking ahead. And would you even just give, for those that don't know Hexagon in whole, would you give kind of your quick explanation of what is the mindset behind Hexagon as a whole company?
I mean, if you want a 2-second explanation, we're like a super sophisticated measurement tape. We can measure in 1, 2, and 3 dimensions. And then once you've done that, why do you need to measure everything? Well, let's say you want to deploy autonomous cars on a motorway. Well, it's very important that they know how far they are from the hard shoulder or from the center line, and that they don't sway too much in the lane. They need to be predictable, and that's measurement technology. If you look at your iPhone and you want the glass to be perfectly aligned with the casing, that's measurement technology. And beyond that, if you know your measurements in the real world, you can simulate that in a piece of software and create the future. So that is what Hexagon is.
I appreciate that. Over the years, there's obviously been a major focus on different technologies that kind of have a buzz or have a highlight. And I feel like maybe that's where we are with digital twins right now, it feels, and this thought of the metaverse and maybe what that means. What other technologies do you see that maybe don't have the highlight yet, or what do you think some of the innovation in the future might be?
Now, I think the innovation in the future is more of what we're beginning to see right now. If you combine AI with digital twins, with robotics and laser sensors, you can create humanoids that can take over mundane and tedious tasks. And I think we're going to see that. I think we're going to see a workforce of robots working, maybe doing the dishes in restaurants, cleaning up hotel rooms, doing factory jobs, delivery jobs, and so on. And then you wonder, what are we going to do? Well, humans are super good at creativity and thinking out of the box. And we're going to see so many new businesses starting in the next 10 years, where people are going to use their creativity to make a living.
Yeah. I don't hear many people that share some of those thoughts. I agree with you. I envision, we look at the changes of even like what Amazon has become for shopping, where many people don't even leave their home. They just order what they need and it's dropped off at their door. And then you also see that so many people will get in a car and still make the journey and drive to a retail store, and they're lost in the store trying to find different items. And I really think that we will get to the point that those are not people working in the stores. It is an automated process. It is robotics. Why waste your time and your money and fuel and all of these things to go to a store to find, I think over time, more and more entertainment, more retail, many of those laborious jobs become automated, and even the sense of the delivery to you. Many people are scared of that future. What's your response to people who are afraid of, there are movies, right, where the technology takes over, and what do you say to those people?
No, I don't think that it's pointless to be scared. Obviously, we need regulation, but I mean, don't you think people were scared 100 years ago when most people worked in farming, and everyone that had a little ambition moved into the cities and started working in factories and stuff. Of course, they were scared, but we made that transition, and that was a huge transition. I think that people are going to be happier in the future.
Yeah.
I think they're going to do what they really want to do rather than having a job and then having your life on the side.
Yeah. I think it really comes down to the basics of fear, and that most people are afraid of change. Even if the change is better, they are people get comfortable with how things are now or what they are used to. And I think we even still see that, I still see that there is hesitation even in the built environment industries and in construction. Many people are hesitant of some of the technologies we're talking about when we focus on laser scanners and drones and robotics. Even there, where we have proven out and we know the technologies are beneficial and they are better to be used, people are still afraid of change, I think, in all situations.
I think the big difference is if you drive change or if you're pushed to change.
Mm-hmm.
No one likes to be pushed around. And we will inevitably be pushed around in life, because there is always change, and either you adapt or you don't. And then you come back to my philosophy that you can't stagnate. You need to learn new things every year and be adaptive to learning.
Yeah. And especially, those that want to be a leader, or a company that wants to be a leader in an industry. Everybody's heard stories over and over of a business that maybe they looked out ahead and they saw a change that was going to happen, but it was maybe different from their core business. So they still didn't make the change, and it ended up being that the industry changed without them, and they missed the opportunity to be ahead and maybe take that step. What is it for you personally? I believe your roles have maybe changed a little bit. What is it today that you are focused on?
Well, 6 years ago, I started a private equity company as a side business as I was running Hexagon. And as I stepped down in December of 22, I could work on this full time. And what we are doing is really to support really, really good entrepreneurs in their quest to conquer their industries. And it's typically high-tech business we're investing in. And it's super fascinating, because now I can share with my experience to people in their 30s and make sure they don't do the same mistakes as I did.
That's awesome. That's got to be a great position to be in, where you've learned so much over the years, and now you get to mentor and help others that are wanting to do something similar, build a company or use a technology to change for good, and you get to help guide them. Must be a rewarding position to be in at this time.
It's fun.
Yeah. That's great. What on that note, and these are maybe some of the questions we'll start to wrap up with. If you were to go back to your younger self, or now you're in this role that you are mentoring younger people who are looking to build companies or make change, what's some advice of the things that you've learned over the years that you would give those individuals?
I think if I could speak to, I was way too young when I became CEO. I was 27. So I've been this for a very long time. And if I could give myself a piece of advice like 30 years ago, I would tell myself that if you feel that this is the right decision, don't hesitate and don't listen too much. Just do it. Because typically where I've made mistakes is when I waited too long to take a decision. You know that it's the right thing to do, but you hesitate. You want to speak to this person and that person and see what happens. So do it instead of just mull over it.
Yes, many people get stuck at the imagining or thinking about something without ever taking the steps and I've heard that advice from many leaders of trusting your intuition and thinking about, not everybody has the understanding. When you think about something you want to do, even anybody you go get advice from, they may have pieces of advice to give you, but they don't have your perspective, the things you've seen, your intuition. And so sometimes, even if it's against the grain, you have to trust the decision you believe to make, and you do it and you learn. And this goes to the thought too around failure, right? Failure is part of the process. What would you say there?
No, failure is definitely part of the process, and in that process, there is nothing wrong with failing. Everyone fails. I think the big difference between if you eventually get it right or not is how long are you gonna let that failure continue, and how long does it take for you to do corrective action? And then you come to your own pride and prestige. Can you admit that you were wrong? There is nothing wrong with that. I mean, admit it and then continue with your life, and hopefully you're on the right track after that.
Yeah, that goes back to your talk about speed, that sometimes you need to have speed in making a decision to do it in the first place. And then even knowing that failure will come is preparing for that, so that you need to learn from it and address it and make change and continue forward. Many people, they don't want to start anything unless it's going to be amazing. You have to know that you're going to be bad first and you grow in that skill and become better.
Absolutely. And you are going to fail. The question is, will you get out of that failure quick enough and then take the right direction next? I mean, that's what it's all about. And if you get it right, I don't know, half the time, then you're probably a superstar.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I want to be respectful of your time. I thank you for coming on and sharing with our community. I'm excited to continue to see the things you do on your journey ahead. And as we're wrapping up, are there any last thoughts that you would like to leave our listeners?
No, I think this was a good overview of me. So no, I'm happy. Thank you very much for having me.
That's great. Awesome. Well, thank you very much again for joining us. And thank you guys for listening. We will see you again next time.